Well, another story we're following, Missouri's Department of Health has denied Planned Parenthood a license to continue operating its St. Louis clinic. It is the last clinic in the state to provide abortions. Its license was set to expire 3 weeks ago, but a district judge issued a preliminary injunction to allow the clinic to continue operating. Well, today the judge heard arguments on whether to extend that injunction. CBS News correspondent Meg Oliver has been following this story, and she joins us now from St. Louis. So, Meg, what was the reason that the Missouri Health Department gave for not renewing the Planned Parenthood license?
So, Rena, they did a recent investigation and they uncovered at least 30 deficiencies, 4 which included failed abortions. So they came forward around 9:30 this morning and refused to renew their license. A short time later, we were inside court and the judge came in and I just want to give you a little bit of background here, because he came forward and he said, look, I've never had a case with this much interest. This is a difficult case. He commended both sides for their professionalism, and he said that he's going to give Planned Parenthood some time to look at the denial, and then he will continue on before he makes his order. So the injunction stays in place right now. So Planned Parenthood of St. Louis can continue performing abortions as this injunction remains in place.
You know, one of the issues the clinic that Planned Parenthood has had is that they no longer want to comply with the regulation that requires women seeking an abortion that they have to get this pelvic exam 72 hours before the operation. Do you have a sense if the clinic's refusal to comply with that was a factor in the health department's decision?
Rena, that's such a good point to bring up, because that was the big development this week when Planned Parenthood announced that they would no longer comply with that law. In this denial, the health department is giving Planned Parenthood an out, basically saying that they no longer have to perform that pelvic exam, that first pelvic exam before an abortion, unless the doctor feels it is medically necessary and as long as they document it. So Planned Parenthood came out of court today feeling like they really won a big argument that they have been trying to express, because, as you know, Missouri has some of the most restrictive abortion laws in place. This has been going on for a few weeks, and women have had to come in. They've had to wait 72 hours before they get an abortion. They've had these 2 pelvic exams up until this week, and then they have the consent procedure. So it's been a very long and frustrating few weeks for a lot of patients, as they didn't know if they could return to the clinic, if their license would stay, and if they could return for an abortion. So as of now, this clinic can continue performing abortions.
And has Planned Parenthood responded, Meg?
Yeah, they feel like this was a big day for them, and this was a victory for women across Missouri. As you know, this is the only abortion clinic in the state, and as these restrictive laws were put in place, women became confused. They didn't know if they could still get an abortion in Missouri. They didn't know if they could make multiple appointments and take time off work to come in to do that. Thousands of them, Rena, have been traveling north. They've been going to Illinois, going to a different clinic, the Hope Clinic, which you're allowed to go in and receive an abortion in one day, because so many women here in Missouri, they became fed up with the process.
You know, the judge will have to extend an injunction in order for the clinic to keep providing these abortions legally. Let's say the judge does extend that injunction. Do we have a sense, Meg, of how long that'll last and what happens after it expires?
Right. I mean, those are great questions, and that's the million-dollar question, basically. What happens next? You know, the judge said that he's never seen such interest in a case of his. He plans to give Planned Parenthood some time to look at the denial. He's going to take some time. He will come back and make his decision, and then whether or not he extends it, whether or not he agrees with the state and they don't renew the license, these are all scenarios that could still come into play. And also, Planned Parenthood told me that, look, the state health department, they might be able to come together and grant their license back again. So there's a lot of scenarios that could play out here, Rena.
Yeah, it certainly sounds that way, Meg. And if a judge doesn't extend the injunction, do we get a sense of what the next steps are for Planned Parenthood?
Well, right now, Planned Parenthood's main message is that they are open for business. They are welcoming women to come in for their procedures, and they want women to know that their door is open. There's been so much confusion in this state for women, calling up, saying, can I make an appointment? Will you still have your license? And they just really, at this point, they want them to know that they are still operating as normal.
Okay. And before you go, Meg, any sense of when the judge might make a decision?
We don't know. It's highly unlikely that he would come back today on Friday. I think he does want to give Planned Parenthood some time to look at this denial and go through the paperwork, possibly early next week. But again, Rena, it's really hard to say.
Yeah, certainly a fluid and a moving story. Meg Oliver, thank you very much for this update.